Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be here for Beyond Sound Vision featuring Transmoderna. To my left, we have Ana Ofak, co-founder and creative director of Transmoderna. She holds a PhD in new media theory and art history and has exclusive publishing as a writer for her book titled Agents of Abstraction. She's worked in these fields academically and in art institutions since 2000s. Then we have Mélanie Courtinat, contemporary artist and creative director. She considers video games as a major medium, focusing on their extraordinary immersive properties and seeks to push their limits. The outcome, crafted through the use of digital tools, results in CGI images and films, interactive experiences, virtual and augmented reality. As an artist, personal work is consistently being shown worldwide in cultural institutions, galleries, and museums. And as an art director, working on commission projects for clients in the luxury, fashion, culture, and music fields. And she also teaches video game theory and history. And to the end is no stranger here, DJ Dixon, DJ and producer, co-founder of Inner Visions and Transmoderna. I'm really excited to dive really deep into the background of Transmoderna. Transmoderna has been bridging the gap between new technologies, the digital art world, into the dance community in really unique ways. Start with Ana. What does Transmoderna mean to you? Can you give us a little backstory and how it all started?
Yes, thank you, Rania, who is our moderator today and also an artist of her own, working with AI and soundscapes. When we started Transmoderna, the original idea was very simple. We wanted to not just enhance, but change the landscape of clubbing. By introducing digital arts into electronic music. And coming from Berlin and founding Transmoderna in 2018, we were connected within a scene which was kind of being reborn again, a scene of creative coding, computational arts, let's say, in the widest sense, experiential arts. And what we were experiencing there resembled what we encountered, let's say, in the 90s, early 2000s in Berlin, when the electronic music scene kind of had its rebirth. So we felt like, wouldn't it be great to bring these two thriving ecosystems together to try to build something new. I don't know what Dixon thinks about this. He was also involved. He's the other co-founder of Transmoderna.
Yeah, we actually, I was approached to do a residency in a nightclub in Ibiza called Pasha, and that was the year before COVID. And I hadn't done any residency for a very long time, probably 10 years. Before that was the last time, and by thinking about what I would do there, I felt the urge to contact Ana and involve her as a creative director and trying to help me or together changing the way that that the ecosystem of clubbing in Ibiza worked at that time. Or actually, it's still working, so we didn't really change it. Where there was a clear gap between the DJ and the dancer. It was a clear star versus customer situation there. And we tried to disrupt that and introduce new media and new stage designs also to focus more on the dance floor rather than on the DJ. And I think that throughout my career, that was always a goal to, for instance, put the DJ booth a bit lower and closer to the people. But this is very basic things. But at that moment, it became interesting to include LED screens into stage design in general. and we thought a need to not install it behind the DJ, and by that focus on the DJ even more, but place LED screens all around the venue. And not just that, also lights, sculptures, and by that putting the dance floor back in the middle of the action. I think, yeah, this is how it started.
Yeah. I would say that after having worked with you both for Foundation Baylor, it's been amazing to see how intricate your process is of how you bring your visions to life. And every project is so different, like integrating pole dancing in a really unique way. Anna, can you tell us a little bit about how the Transmoderna ecosystem works? How do you work differently? And tell me a little bit about goal of immersion, as there seems to be a big aspect of immersive experiences that are created.
Yeah, so what I just kind of used to introduce where we're coming from is basically the core of how we work and produce, and that's through bringing together different artists and developers, I would say, from different fields. Most importantly, I would say it's artists who can create worlds. World building is very important for us and for what we show within the frame of clubbing. So anything from 3D modeling to, let's say, AI generative imageries, or creating a world within people can interact with each other and even play with each other, is becoming more and more exciting to us, and I think also something which will be exciting within the clubbing scene. And what we're trying is what Stefan said, to avoid centralizing the DJ and basically having this vertical architecture of experiencing music and dance, but we are decentralizing it and trying to make everything circular so that people move around, they listen, they hopefully dance, but they also perceive visuals in a different ways as a world that's around them. And I think this is really important to us to achieve through collaborations with artists on the side of music, but also on the side of visuals, a merging of image and sound, and not just have a VJ who plays their visuals behind the DJ, or the DJ who just plays their music, but to have a conversation, to have a collaboration, and that gives birth to something which is unique and unified.
There are so many evolving roles within Transmoderna. How do you define roles within Transmoderna in alignment to the vision and values?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I guess, I don't know how you would I think our roles between Stefan and me cannot be unglued already. Of course, he is more on the musical production side. He's the musical director. And I would be the one who takes care of the conceptualization and the creative visual vision. But as soon as the developers and artists start coming in, they bring their own perspective on the whole. And I think that's when the interesting stuff starts brewing. Because there are a lot of artists that we worked with who say like, oh, you know, I prefer not to be artistically directed. I'm bringing my own vision, and I want that to be implemented into Transmoderna. So at that moment in time, everything kind of changes, and we accommodate that vision as well. So it's pretty difficult, I would say, to say. Stefan is the musical director, he takes care of the music. Mélanie, when we work with her, she's the one who takes care of the gamification aspect, or of creating the characters, because Mélanie provided so much conceptually that she already kind of docks onto my field of work. And I think that's the exciting thing, and that makes us also differentiate ourselves when we produce something, let's say for a bigger stage like Printworks in London. We really truly bring a show where everybody has been part of it and not just us as directors.
And Dixon, question for you. What's the most important to your workflow as a DJ, and how has it evolved over recent years?
The workflow, feeling confident enough to play what I want to play is important, and for that, the surrounding, the club situation needs to be set right, or the festival situation, wherever it is. So sometimes you're playing a huge stage of 10,000 people, but the sound system doesn't allow you to play more than 93 dB, which clearly means for you as a DJ that you can only play half of the tunes that you really would like to play. You have to play way more ear-catching than when it would be 105 decibel. The same, or it could be that you're playing in a club, but it's way too early, or it's way too late for what you actually planned. The people are already leaving, or they're just coming, or there's so many things in a night that are different every night. That a certain pre-planned program doesn't work. So you always have to react what is happening in front of you. And the crucial part is that I'm very often deeply into the music, and I'm thinking 5 tracks ahead, or I have just 10 new tracks that I'm really excited about and I really want to play, but I have to find a way to do it, and I have to learn it step by step during a night. You cannot practice this at home, mixing 2 tracks together, and then the mix maybe is perfect, but in a club situation it's just not perfect because there's different energy there. And to be able to actually feel this, I need to get loose, and I need to not think all the time anymore. And this is something that's really important to my workflow, to kind of check in the beginning what's the situation, what's the parameters that are right, what's the parameters that are wrong, how should I react to this, and then feel the confidence to let go and pick by feeling what is happening. I think this, and telling a story by that.
Right.
Yeah.
So real time is quite critical to you when you're DJing.
It is to, that's what it's about. That's what DJing is actually about. It's not about what kind of music you play. Everyone is has different favorite music. It's about how you present it and how you can take people on your road and tell a story that is interesting at the end, and is having its maybe fast beginning, but then it takes a slower part, then it takes a romantic part, then it takes a hard part again, and at the end there's a big finale. Or it's the other way around. You build it up from maybe you play the same 20 tracks, but in the beginning you play rather the softer tracks, and then you slowly but surely build it up, and it comes to a climax 10 minutes before the end, and the last track is something really, really slow and really romantic. So it's often it's the same tracks that I'm playing, but I'm playing it in a completely different way, in real time, a story that is told.
And what's the most interesting learnings you've discovered along your way integrating a lot of emerging technologies?
It's probably that people often think there's only one artist in the club, which is the DJ or entertainer, whatever you call it. But there's also someone doing the lights, maybe someone doing the lasers, or someone doing the visuals. And they are also artists, and they also want to tell a story. So it's obviously very not very singular or not very coherent but if we all tell a story without syncing in some way. And bringing in this new media now made me realize again that we need to have some kind of central communication hub or central software or central tool that is linking what we all want to do. And working on this, I think that was the most interesting part, how to avoid that if I'm just playing the probably biggest track in my set, the light person is just going to the toilet. You know, and linking all these elements was crucial.
There is such a strong storytelling behind Transmoderna. How has your journey with audiovisuals on stage as a DJ evolved over time?
I think that picking up on what I said before, real-time storytelling is what is important. And when you plan too much ahead, this real-time storytelling gets lost. And instead of creating a interesting DJ set, you basically play a concert, where there's the same 20 songs in the same order, and there's the same visual running behind them that are maybe programmed for it. So this actually is the result of a lot of people that picked up on what we did in Ibiza and now are doing a lot of audiovisual shows. That there is when I see them, I clearly see that most of this is pre-programmed, and there's no natural element in it anymore that is able to throw everything away and go a different direction. And so I think it became clear that first of all, putting only on one media, for instance LED screens, is not interesting. That's why we were interested in AR experiences, VR experiences that we produced. And there was always a dialogue between that. Anna said world building.
Building, yeah.
So when you build worlds, you can use aspects of each world for the ambient that you use it in now. And you can connect it by that. And that was actually the most interesting part of it, I would say that it's not just about what you see behind the DJ or what the generative work that you see around the dance floor. It's also what you see in the side room where there's a VR installation, or that you see in a performance that Mélanie is doing throughout it was in New York, that she performed 20 minutes?
15
minutes,
was
yes.
super important.
Where basically I was stopping the music that I was playing at that moment and gave the stage to Mélanie to perform her work during that music event.
So Mélanie, leading to you, how can you define doing things differently in the audiovisual space?
So I think that my entry to the audiovisual space has truly been triggered by my recent collaboration with Transmoderna. Well, we've been working together for 1.5 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We started in London, and this collaboration changed a lot in terms of scale of the project, because I'm someone who creates mostly gamified experiences, and so I'm used to work behind a screen in my own place alone. And in that case, I would say that this was quite a new challenge, because creating for an audience of thousands of people in a live setting varies a lot. There's a lot of pressure involved. The live aspect of it as well means everything has to go perfectly in that one moment, which adds up to the challenge. But also, I think that you cannot work alone if you're going to create for this type of settings. That's why collaborating inside Transmoderna is that important, because if we were maybe just the three of us, this would have not been possible. As you guys said just before, there's a lot of people involved in this type of performances. There's developers, there's the lights persons, there's so much happening. And so this allowed me to work better as a team to create bigger experiences as well.
Can you tell us about your latest collaboration with Transmoderna in New York?
The latest collaboration took place in a space called Art District Brooklyn, which has the specificity of having every wall being a screen. The visuals show, being shown right now, show a little teaser of what it is. How it happened, Dixon just gave you a clue about it, but at some point of the performance where the DJ was playing, the crowd was dancing, enjoying it, there was live visuals happening, AI, a lot of different technology being added, and at some point Dixon just shut the music down, sat down, and I stand up and had to play a performance / game that we developed together.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I try to play the game for the technicians and it stops. I don't know what's happening there. Maybe you could check. Because the visuals that you're seeing are a collaboration with the different artists we worked with in New York. You can see the screens, but nonetheless, we would love to be able to show the game. Yeah. It's here, but it stops. Maybe because the machine doesn't recognize that something's moving.
Well, I can explain.
Yeah. Yeah.
The game is about some kind of journey through the Transmoderna world, in which different little scenes happen inside a bigger world, and the camera, being controlled by the controller, allows to fly around many little things happening, little scenes that we wrote down together beforehand. These Borgs, which are the Transmoderna iconic characters, gather together, and we can see them experiencing their life, their everyday life, and a lot of visual clues about the meaning of this word happen as well. But what was truly interesting for me was the way we worked between, as a collaboration, between sound and visuals. Because usually when you create a game, you're going to create the visuals and give it to the sound person, and the sound person will add a layer of sound. So visuals come first. But in that case, it was way more interconnected. There was all of us writing down the word first, then a little iteration to create the visuals, and then a lot of going back with the sound. I got the sound super early on, and so I believe that the word was built based on sound, and not the other way around. There was a lot of, I like to use the word layer for this collaboration, because also in this word, 3D word, where you can have your journey inside, the sound is being cut in different pieces that you have to gather. You have to visit every place in the 3D world to be able to listen to the sound with all the layer of it in the end.
Yeah, that's a very interesting aspect that we work on. In my opinion, I don't know if you wanted to say something about it, Stefan, but understanding the game from the sound point of view. How does sound trigger actions? How can it enhance actions? How can we produce a game which is a music generator, basically, where the player, through their actions, defines what outcome in the end you get on your hands musically, and that's the exciting part. Aside from the characters and the whole of the world, I wish I could show it to you, but for some reason it stops.
One more question for you, Mélanie. How do your projects between Transmoderna and your personal works differ?
I think it's mostly the scale of the projects. A venue in New York has nothing to do with what I was used to work on. Smaller exhibitions, gallery spaces, there's going to be a few dozens of people if you're lucky. But a live performance being sold out with thousands of people is something different in terms of how do you place the action visually as well. How do everybody in the room is able to see what you want. but also the collaborative aspect a lot. It's not just Transmoderna comes to me and say, do this, and then I deliver with a few rounds of feedbacks. It was really more about writing a story together, having a narration that makes sense both for Transmoderna as a group than just me obeying something.
And a question for Anna and Stefan. How important is collective work to you?
It's everything. I think that Transmoderna itself wouldn't be the way it is if, let's say, on the very basic level, we wouldn't have decided to work together, Stefan and me. But then with each artist that joins us or with each developer, like a new nuance comes to it. And I think that's great. And then we, of course, are way too restless and bored very fast, which is not always an advantage, so that we also understand Transmoderna as an ever-changing collective. So it's fluid. The artists come and collaborate with us, and then maybe they move on. Some of them stay. So it's like it's in permanent flux, and I think that's what generates the most exciting projects, in my opinion.
And I also would think that, as I explained in the beginning, the original reason for Transmoderna was a residence in Pasha, which means 20 nights the same thing happened over and over again. And we created content for that. And then our team became bigger, and COVID happened, and we produced streams, or we produced based on a stream that we did for Fondation Bele. We did VR experiences, or a VR experience, and after this more. But working with the team put our focus also in other direction than just creating an image for a party or even a DJ. You know, when you see other audiovisual shows, it's always there's a performer, sometimes a DJ, sometimes a live act, and the visuals are basically just creating the image for this person. And I think with our collective, it's more about projects and working in directions rather than adding a layer on a DJ performance. That's why, for instance, this year, or since COVID, we have done only 3 parties at the end. But we did 4 VR experiences.
Yeah.
4 VR experiences that are now shown in several museums around the world. And so this year it was a lot about making sure that we are not doing just another party. We wanted to recalibrate what we actually think should be the next party and how should they look. Should they include visuals? Should they not? What should be the stage design in the future be? Where could it be different to what is the state of audiovisual shows today? Where do we see us? And that is always a conversation within a collective. It's never one person having the vision that everyone is just following.
Yeah. And if I may add something, there is another collaborator to Transmoderna, and that's technologies or emergent technologies. And we really kind of, when we discover something that we are either pointed out to by technical creative, or we ourselves start using and then think, oh my God, we need to kind of make this our own and do something with it. Then we actually work on a completely different level than people are used to work with technology. Let's say something like AI. Obviously, everybody knows what's possible with AI nowadays through platforms like Midjourney and DALL-E. But most of the people use it as an instrument to create a certain kind of image that they want from themselves, for their socials, and so on and so on. When we go into a collaborative mode with technologies, and let's say AI is one example, then we really try to allow the medium to make its own signature on the project. meaning that we don't only direct, because of course you have to be an operator, you have to operate with technology, but we also try to see what's very typical to that certain kind of technical medium, and then we try to tickle it out and to really make it show and becomes a part of how the aesthetics or the visuals or the mood that we want to create is also channeled by that specific technical medium. And I think that's something that really differentiates us to other, let's say, collectives who work within these two fields.
And to just add, I think it's also really a lot about experimenting. It's not about using something to have a Disney-fied experience that is more polished and it's even superficial. It's about seeing how people react when Mélanie is playing a game through while it wasn't the warm up of the party. It was really prime time 2:30 where this started, and her experience took 10 minutes to actually really get going and to come back to music where people started to dance again. And I think this is also the experiment in that is something that excites us, and experiment also means that sometimes people can fail, things can fail, but
mostly
often,
people fail.
yes, or the people fail, yes. But often in that technologies, the failure is actually the beauty.
Yeah.
And that is for me, again, connecting to the beginning of electronic music when certain new machines were on the market, and the wrong way to use them created new music. And I feel the same with these new technologies right now, that yes, there's a way that you can look at it and say that AI is having six fingers on a human, or 12 fingers on a human being. Yes, that's wrong, right? But isn't there something in it that is actually beautiful? Maybe it's not this, but the search for something that is beautiful in failure is what also is part of our genetic.
It's really impressive how intricate and very detailed you think through every aspect of the creative collaborations. What is your favorite way to collaborate with other creatives? And could you highlight some maybe challenges as well that you've overcome?
Yeah. Well, I would say that like our favorite collaboration is the one with Mélanie. Yeah, it was. But seriously, it's not just about kind of vibing with an artist or a developer, but it's also the ability to open a space for each other's visions and needs. And I mean, we both have a very, very strong opinions, and we know what we want to do with Transmoderna. And when somebody new comes in, it's like this way of, how dogs sniff each other and see where is this going to take us. So it's a very delicate thing. But then if it works on a level where we can really what I mentioned, where we can merge the different approaches and visions, then it's like full completion. And I can tell you we bled so many times because working as a collective, it's like when everything goes smooth, it's great, the sun is shining. But as soon as there are dirty dishes, like everybody goes hysteric. And I mean us, but also the people that come in, and then it gets really, really difficult. It truly gets bloody, and we have some projects in the past where we look back now, and I think like now 1.5 years passed. Should I call the person to kind of settle things, because it's not good to have that in our history. So yeah, there have been really great collaborations, but also really bad ones. Yeah.
But picking up on one real challenge, and
Mélanie
was involved.
He's disconnecting me.
Mélanie was involved. It was the pole dance performance. I think that from a maybe technical perspective, this was the most challenging at the moment, because it was supposed to be a real-time pole dance performance.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
And Mélanie created a character for it. But that's just I don't know, 20% of the work, 30%,
Yeah,
whatever the number
not
is,
even.
because you need to have a pole dancer, you need to have the performance, you need to have the music for it, you have to track the pole dancer,
Yes.
and then
Live motion capture.
live motion capture.
That was our dream.
Yes, and then you plan all of this, and then you go to the studio there, and then they're saying, yeah, but the pole dancer is telling you that the problem is that the tracking suit that you're wearing is not working for pole dancing, because pole dancing, you need to have the skin on the pole. It kind of holds you. And the tracksuit there is, and then you learn throughout this experience that what all the technical issues are, and your time is running. Your event is in 2 months, and you haven't even have the data from it, and so there was, while you're doing this, there is, it's never an easy road, maybe never, but for me the pole dance was one of the hardest.
We got so lucky because it's really easy actually to work with creatives which rely on technical developers. So creatives which are not all in one, but who can at a certain moment step back and say, okay, now the technical part comes in. But then the technicians need to deal with this vision, right? And you get very lucky when you have technicians who have some kind of an understanding for what they're getting onto their tables. And the guys we work with for the motion capture, they were like, no suit, no problem. We'll create, they created little textile buttons, which they glued on Francie, that's the name of the pole dancer's skin. And then they could track her with these reflective buttons. And they were even like, we feel well doing the live motion capture, but then in the studio it already was such a failure that we decided not to do it. But there are so many elements. I'm telling you this hopefully not to bore you with technical details, but the inventiveness on the technical side, when it comes in this beautifully, then you're like, yes, this is how we want it. But that happens 30% of the time. Yes, so mostly it's like a struggle. Yeah,
I think a lot of people forget or don't realize how challenging that journey is working with emerging technologies, because it means that you're pushing the boundaries by trying stuff that hasn't been done before, which means you're setting the precedent, right? So there wasn't anything beforehand to inform you of what was potentially not working or not possible. So I think, thank you for sharing those intricate details. I think that part of the story behind people's projects often get lost.
Yeah.
And I remember Foundation Baylor very well.
Oh my God, yes.
And that was supposed to be a live stream, but it ended up being, I remember you sending 50 plus pages of storyboard for that project, which was insane, but it was also incredibly impressive how you held together that team of everyone, of many different creatives of different backgrounds to make it happen.
Yeah, that was such a dream project because we worked with somebody who had this inexhaustible depths of understanding for innovation, also acceptance for digital art. So the director of the Museum of Fondation Bayle, Sam Keller, and basically we were offered this incredible playground, which is the museum itself, and we were allowed to digitize some of the iconic works that they have in their collection, and this was never done before. And all we were saying, you cannot digitize something I don't know which one should I, Auguste Rodin's The Thinker without depth. And the first scan we had, it looked like a toy. It was horrible. And then we learned, but you can only do it like this if you want to use it in a stream, because otherwise we blow up, any kind of possible data flow. So we had to find a middle ground, and it was always like this. And I have to say that Dixon is more the one who always pushes the boundaries. I'm already on my knees. I'm like, okay, I give up. And then he's like, no, we're going to get that. We're going to make it possible. And this is why also, we plan grand things like a live stream, but then it turns out, you won't be able to do that because, again, the data flow. And I think we did it with Beatport. They were just simply not able to deliver it through their servers. And so, you do as much as you can, you wish for the most, but then, it ends up well, but you're a little bit disappointed. At least I'm always a little bit disappointed and deflated in the end.
Oh, it's the same with when you produce, or an artist probably never is really happy with what he's doing, or I'm never happy. A DJ set that I hear later on, I'm always have all my, okay, this is wrong, why did I do this? Maybe I forgot why I did this, because in the moment it was maybe right, but when I listen to it later, it's for me not, I don't understand it anymore. And that's also for productions, you know, you deliver it and then but you realize, oh, my sound is not the best, and or this melody is, it was supposed to be as good as this melody, but it's not, and you always question it. So because I'm working on this for 30 years already now, nearly, or is it? Yeah, nearly. I was often in the stage of delivering something where I was unsecure if it is good enough. But you have to accept that it's good enough for this moment.
Yeah.
This is what it is. This is what you are at this position. This is what you can deliver, and be happy about it.
The challenges of being visionaries, right? So one thing I wanted to touch on are the social experiments that you've done with Transmoderna. Can you unpack a little bit the approach that you take in regards to social experiments within project development as well as for DJing live?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest social experiments was working with Mélanie live as a performer. But just to kind of reverse back, if I understand the question correctly, I mean, where we come from is like the clubbing culture, and we were already always interested in kind of taking what is there. This is like one of the most exciting micro communities because it comes together again and again anew. So one of the most exciting micro communities you have in the cultures. So how can we go in there and do new things with it without losing the people? Because obviously everybody goes to a club, not just to dance, but to kind of get together with other people and to feel good. I mean, Dixon always says, like, this is why I started DJing, because I wanted to be with, you know, these people and see what they're up to. So this is the initial experiment, going into an intimate environment like that. Okay, if it's 5,000 people event, then it's not that intimate, but still, that come there to be together and to dance together. And while they're doing that, to bring them in your world and to kind of allow them to become part of it, but also to have their energy in that world and to make it function. Right? And then the social experiment, I guess, is how would they react? We all know how they react to LED screens nowadays. Everybody's like staring, and this is obviously something that you wouldn't want when
Taking out their phones.
Taking out their phones.
And not being in the moment anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's not illegal to film, right? And it won't break your experience if you don't stick to it all the time. But how can we manage to have all these media and the clubbing come together and create something new? And this is what we experimented on with Mélanie. Like, she was telling us all, she was there, and it's so many people, and you play a game on your own. And how can we get that groove from playing a game into the people who just dance and were having the, you know, time of their lives, but now somebody else is playing a game? So what can we do about this? How can we make this into something new, something exciting? I guess this is my journey personally. Yeah, but I'm always eager to hear, like, from the other side too. What is it that makes it exciting for you, Mélanie? Right?
I think the answer to that is that we have to try. We will never know if the audience is going to react positively when they go to a super huge stage, they dance their heart off, and then at 2 a.m, lights go down, music goes down. Dixon gives the space to the stage to someone no one knows. How are they going to react? We would never know if we didn't try.
Yeah, true.
And it worked.
It worked.
It worked. People, I won't lie about the fact that people probably thought it was a bit weird, a bit peculiar in the beginning. Where was this going? But if they let themselves go into it, they took a few pictures and then they just took a little time, got into the sound that was way more ambient than dancing, and then they just enjoyed it, and it worked. But how could we know before? Asking the people wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the storytelling of not just a DJ but a night in general, you know, that you have, it's 15 minutes, but it's at the end of the day, it's just 15 minutes in a 7-hour night. And, you know, as with DJing, you don't play only the hits, you know, you play certain things that are experimental, or to play something experimental, you also have to play some hits and so on. So there's ups and downs that make a night interesting. And so to have the balls to risk is maybe even too much to say, because it should be fundamental actually. And because you know that when you risk something for 15 minutes, and even if it fails, the next 15 minutes will be umso better. Because people are then super happy that their standard, what they expect, is back, and then the euphoria will be even higher.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can experiment, you can do this. And this is something that maybe even for me 5 years ago was a bit lost, because I was so long in this, you know, and I played all the sets all around the world, and experimenting wasn't my biggest strength anymore. And I think Transmoderna brought this back in me to be able to say, okay, let's try. Let's just try, as Mélanie said. Because we have the visuals, the lights, the music to make them happy. So let them go through some pain, and maybe later on they like the pain. You know.
I'm really curious. How has working with visuals and different mediums changed the way you DJ?
Well, let's say I'm only did 20 shows back in 2018, and now 3 shows in the past 3 years. So it wasn't that often that I played it. But whenever we did the shows, I was playing all night long. So on one hand, it gave me the freedom to be myself again, because this is what I originally started on. I played in small bars in Berlin, played all night long, played all kind of music, and this is where I'm coming from actually, and which is less and less what I do today. So on one hand, this whole experiment brought me back to how I actually started. The other thing is that even if I think we said before that doing is just just placing our trust on one singular medium or media is not what we're doing. There's a lot of elements involved, and that needs some kind of planning. And to find the right base of how much planning is enough, so that you create a couple of moments that are really pre-planned, but then you also use technology to go wild and unplanned. How much moments you need, how wild can you go? I remember at London, we decided that we wanted to create a moment that we wanted to create this impression that everything goes wrong. And we planned this with the lasers, lights, visuals, and I forgot that if the music doesn't go wrong, then no one realizes that everything goes wrong. Everyone thinks like, yeah, what's this now, blah. So we choose specifically a track where there was this 30 seconds where it was completely a sound disaster, and this is where we created this moment of, I think people thought at this moment, shit, this, they definitely don't want it like this. And this is what excites us, and this is what also highlights experimental sides in my music sets, because this was the original question, how does it influence my music? So I was specifically looking for music that is maybe as wild as it needed for that moment, but people that go to a Dixon set would maybe not really expect it like this. But it was needed for that moment, so I jumped out of my own range.
It's so funny. When we planned that, we actually we just created an AI operating system, so a system to operate our lasers, lights, and visuals on its own. And it was a generator, so either you believe in it or you don't, but it does things that are unexpected. And we introduced this principle to the human operators that we worked with, and they're like, no. Like, no, definitely no. If you want a disturbance, then we are going to initiate it. But I'm not working with an AI agent involved in my operational system. And we couldn't convince them. And these are guys who are in the business for 10 years. They're great. They're doing some of the greatest show out there. And they were just like, you could really sense how the communication went belly up at that point. And we're like, oh, shoot. So,
And I'm pretty sure now,
Yeah.
4 years later, they actually use all of this, you know.
Yeah,
They
now
integrated
they-
all this in their work, you know.
so yeah.
So AI is a very hot topic at the moment. What are some of your biggest takeaways from all of the experiments that you've done and the way you've integrated AI into your projects?
We're seeing an AI version of our boiler room in London on the screen. Yeah. For me, the most exciting part about it is that you have this agent or even a collaborator, which is completely unpredictable. It's like a child. It is literally a child that you're teaching, you're training it with an uncertain outcome. Not if you work with DALL-E, a Midjourney, because there is an aesthetic to it, a preset aesthetic. But if you work on your own, we have our own AI app with which we work. And it's still so, it's like in its first years, it's still untrained and the outcomes are sometimes shit. But that's actually the part that really, really keeps us going with it and makes it into something that we are still hooked on. And I think AI, not just in the field of visual arts in general, but also in the field of performative arts, but also in music, will unify all of the different media that we work with. And we tried this with our AI-based ecosystem, but as I said, like our human operators were like, no. So it's still an ongoing process, but I think it's one of the most exciting ones out there in the field of working with different emerging technologies and new media. Yeah.
And Mélanie, what are your thoughts on how AI is impacting your world?
I think I'm super excited to see what can be done between video games and AI, a lot concerning not really the visuals, but most likely concerning the NPC, the non-playing characters, because you can literally train. There's like Skyrim mods that allows players who download it to have a conversation with something that looks superhuman, super believable. I think it's games we play today are gonna look so old in 3 to 4 years when every game is going to look like this. Also, I like AI, I like to work with AI. I like ChatGPT, helps me write my emails as well. I like Midjourney, who allows to be the perfect intern who's gonna draw my concept without me having to touch a pen. And also I understand the concerns about AI taking our work, but I think if AI is can take your work, then your work wasn't that good. So we should work with AI, collaborate with this to create beautiful things. And in that case, Transmoderna has been collaborating with AI since 4 years. Well, that would be the way.
There's definitely a lot of fear, I think, that a lot of people have of job replacements. And Stefan, I'm curious for you, how do you see AI impact you as a musician and in the visual arts as well? But maybe let's start with music. Have you experimented with AI?
Yes, we have. We have experimented with it. And I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated with it. I can't really fully grasp now where it will take the music production or even DJ inside. But at least at the stage it is now, it's extremely impressive, funny, and or impressive what can be done with it. You know, there's tools now that can get me the bass line out of a track which I can use somewhere else. You know, you can get within AI, you can separate every existing track right now in vocals, guitar, bass, drums, percussions, ambience, and the results are mind-boggling. Sometimes they don't really work, but even there's maybe a beauty in it. Sometimes a voice sounds a bit distorted, but could be beautiful. But it's just one example of how AI is used in music production at the moment, which is super exciting, and I'm following where it will take us.
Have you tried training your own material with an AI model yet? Yes, you.
No, I have not tried it yet, but in the process of the game that we are developing, this is the next step now. Yes.
Can you go a little bit deeper into this game that you're developing?
Yeah. It's we have a fourth collaborator actually who is not with us today, Arnaud Gomi. He's our developer, technical developer, like a true crack, also a great new addition to Transmoderna in my opinion. And the idea is literally to try to condense what we do in our events or also in our VR installations into a game and make it accessible for everybody, basically from their gaming stations, in the sense that what I said before, it's not just a game where you journey through worlds, but the way you play triggers the sound, the generative sound aspect. So you're basically, while you're playing, you're generating music, and at the end of the game, hopefully, you will have something at hands. And I wouldn't want to give more details. It's just that, again, the major goal is to have this perfect merging between sound and image and allow you to, even if you're already very kind of in deep gaming, like the kids are nowadays, even if you just put them in front of a tiny screen, but to reach a level of immersion where you're really literally in the world and you're creating within the world. I think that's the major
I would
thing.
maybe also not enough details, yeah. But basically the idea is that that there's original music material, and by the way you play it, you're actually remixing it. And it's not that you're physically doing it, as people do it today. It's by the way you play a game. And this is the core idea, and this is what we're working on at the moment.
Because not everybody can buy a ticket to go to see Transmoderna in New York, in London, or in beautiful places, venues around the world. So now we're coming to you.
Do you have a release or launch date at the moment?
It's being debated. I think that some kind of an experimental version might be there in late spring and something more solid in autumn. But let's see where this all takes us. And
That'll be very exciting to see. Stefan, there is a quote from you that you said you realize the future has expired. What's your vision of the future right now, as it stands?
First of all, I have to clarify that it's not my quote. It's a quote that I was saying, but it's a discussion that was between Anna and me. So it's basically our view on it. And the meaning of it was, at least from my perspective, and Anna can say something to it too, was that we're always looking into the future as there's something crazy far away. Someday something is coming, and we will reach that point. And we were in a specific time where we felt, no, the future is here actually. It's us that just need to play around with these tools, and instead of waiting that the AI is making the perfect image, why don't we play around it before it can create the perfect image? The future is here, let's work with this. At least that's from my perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know, Anna can maybe share also what her idea was behind it.
Yeah, I exactly like that, but I looked at that sentence from a different perspective, assuming that we do not need to bother so much about the future, because presently we are encountering like an asymmetrical evolution of all kinds of emergent technologies. Some disappear after a very short time and others pop in. So it's a very special time in history of technology, in my opinion, because everything's there. It's at the reach of our hands. So instead of trying to project something to tomorrow, like, grab it today and just work with what's there, because it might disappear. For example, I just read today that Microsoft has discontinued producing Kinect in August. Kinect was a depth camera with which you could film your movements and actually stream it in real time. We use the Kinect for our underwater stream. I don't know how many of you remember this. We produced it during the pandemic. And what we did, we used the Kinect, 2 of them, to film Dixon while DJing, and then we used that imagery and put it into a complete 3D underwater world. And it's such a great technology. And
it was cheap technology.
It was such a cheap technology. It was so great. It didn't function the way Microsoft wanted it to function, together with their Xbox, right? So they kicked it. It wasn't generating enough profit. But for artists, it was an amazing tool. And I don't know if you know the band Final Fantasy. We love them. We saw them live in New York in January, and their whole performance is based on several Kinects, filming them while they're performing. And on the screen, you see this kind of augmented reality projection of what they're doing on stage. You don't see them, like in the usual concerts, but like the Kinect version of it. And we were loving it. And now this tool is gone. So what we learned throughout this process, don't trust in the future, take what's here now and do the best with it, and, make a mark. And I now today, when I see the underwater stream that we did it with Boiler Room, I'm like, oh my God, we did that in 2020. Jesus, incredible. And today you couldn't make it anymore because there are no more Kinects on the market. So we would do it with something else. But this is what I'm trying to convey. Like, you have to be fast nowadays, and you have to be very elastic, and watch where you're putting all your coins. Don't put it all into one game like Final Fantasy with their Kinect. I don't know what they'll do next, because everything is based on that. So, yeah.
I actually ordered an Azure as soon as I saw that. So I think they're like 400 something euros.
Yes.
I don't know if they're sold out yet, but yes, I think they're a good investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super good. I recommend to everybody.
Amazing. So we've got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
I just wanted to open it up to the floor if anyone has any questions regarding what we've discussed. Maybe up front here.
Maybe a question for...
Sorry.
Sure. Hey, my name is Joep. Question on the technical side. So if you had to imagine a piece of software that would be available to you years down the road in a club, connecting different media together, what should it do for you? And what's a technical challenge now you can solve as you go into a club? Maybe not Printworks, where it's built around you, but another club. How would you wish things are integrated? And maybe the same question on the pre-production side after.
Well, there is one tool already that is actually doing it pretty good, Touch Designer. Yeah. Still, the way to communicate through that is an amazing tool to connect, an amazing tool to play with, but to communicate with it, there is a downside of it, I would say. So I would love to have. It's probably only possible within AI, but I would love to have a tool that, based on what I'm playing now, kind of is analyzing what I'm usually doing, and based on what I'm playing now, predicts what I'm going to do now in the next 5 minutes, and based on that is changing lights and lasers and all of this. So it's basically following me or following someone else that is the guidance in that group that is performing together. So that's one thing I was hoping for. But again said, I think Touch Designer is doing already a really, really good job, and I think that even opening up that box and implementing a couple of things that we are planning would be ideal. Yeah. So that's for live performance. Yeah. And then.
Yeah, Touch Designer is our best bet at the moment. We were struggling hard with implementation of our AI app, AI generator, into the system of Touch Designer. We had a MIDI interconnecting them, and this already, you start building a live studio, and you cannot do that. You cannot, I mean, of course you can go touring with a lot of equipment and everything, but we want to be very purist. That would be the ideal situation. And the moment that our AI operator figured out how to kick the MIDI out of the equation, and where we just had Touch Designer there, he kind of hacked himself into the system. It was one of the best moments we had this year, and this was the first time we were able to show it that way was in New York. So what we do in the studio is basically we try to simulate how a live performance might pan out, and what are the what are the parameters that we need to pay attention to. And then we come to New York and we realize that they have a system in place. Green Hippos, it doesn't matter, maybe some of you know. It's like this huge server system where you have to bring everything in before it goes out. So again, we had Green Hippos, Touch Designer, a MIDI, everything swirled up. So what we worked on in the studio was demolished within 48 hours, and we have to start anew. So you always have to keep like a huge amount of flexibility in the way you work, and be prepared to experiment, which most of the people are not, in order to tackle these kind of problems. But Touch Designer, yeah, I guess.
And more for you, for maybe the production side?
I think I would just circle back on what Anna just said. It's good to trust one software, but you also have to be able to adapt. Things can go wrong, and it did in New York. We had 48 hours to just rethink everything, the whole performance, not 1 hour of live, but the whole night. So maybe not putting your coins in the same software is a clever way to work, being able to experiment but adapt a lot.
Any more questions?
Yes. Thank you very much for this interesting talk. I wanted to know the role of the venue when you develop your project. Do you choose the venue before developing it, or do you adapt the concept to the place where you show it?
We usually choose venues that allow us to adapt. To adapt existing material, but is forcing us also to build new material. And for instance, in New York, it was clear that there's this 360-degree screening, so we needed to adapt to it and build something new, and also learn to understand how to use it and not just have 7 hours of 360-degree flash. But how to use it, what's the good tempo for it. Sometimes you use only 1% of it, sometimes you use 200, sometimes 50, sometimes 100%. So based on what the venue can offer, we also develop new material. But I think that's also one of our weak points in some way, that we very often choose to be challenged too much instead of just repeating a couple of things. Because when we do a show in London and we like the venue and we like the content that we produced, why not also presenting it in Berlin or in Buenos Aires or in Hong Kong? Because people haven't seen it there yet. So to find the balance between always be playful and create new material, and I don't mean just visuals, I mean just really new stages, new concepts, and to be still creative and do this, but also repeat yourself a bit more often than what we do is something that we're planning for 2024 now. Yeah.
Any other? I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, so this. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so this question is for three of you. Where is like a Transmoderna vision? Like, where are you gonna be? Like 5, 10, 20 years? What you think about in your minds?
Yeah, I can speak for myself. This is one of my wet dreams. I would love to have VR glasses which are not clunky. So today, VR glasses usually cover 3/4 of your face, are potentially heavy depending on which model you choose. They're not very reliable. We work a lot with VR installations and museums where you have a lot of like a big influx of people, and we always have problems with them. And I would love to see some tech developer take the case of VR goggles and develop a lens, you know, a thing that you can, not like these horrible Google glasses, sorry, but literally like a contact lens. It should somehow be possible in the nearest future. There are materials for this. I mean, there are flexible LED skins. There are high-grade, like medical silicones. Do it, finally. We want to be, you know, in our favorite sci-fi movies. So, yeah.
I agree 1000%. Also, we love virtual reality, we love augmented reality, and maybe merging the two of them would give, there's a lot of words for this, but mixed reality, XR, is, I think, the next step from all of these immersive experiences. And we've seen little trials with HoloLens or Magic Leap, but maybe the upcoming Apple Vision Pro, the headset that everybody has seen online, is a good step toward this mixed reality that would give the possibility to have virtual images, not just inside screens or not just inside the phone, but literally being part of the world and keeping the real world with something, another layer of reality would be so exciting.
Maybe use the chance to say that you maybe, or some maybe have thought that we're going to answer that we want to do 24 shows around the world and we don't want to be in 10 museums and this is our master plan. But it's actually not about the amount of output. It's about the experimentation and the being driven by researching and finding playful outcome of what we consider state of the art. And I, for instance, I've never seen a stream or something that you can see live at home that has an extra value for you being at home. It's always, the value is always in being live in a venue. And on home, it's really a watered-down version of what people see that are in a venue. What could be this amazing experience that you have at home when you watch a show live from home? What is it?
So basically Pokemon Go for Transmoderna. That's what we want.
Amazing. Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much for Anna, Melanie, and Stefan. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
We have 2 glasses. We have to share one.
now for the
Please
water.
have some. I'm good.